Hey everybody, this is Brian Slagel. I'm the CEO from Metal Blade Records. We are celebrating our 30th anniversary this year. A typical day here, there's a lot of stuff going on. There's meetings, every day, kind of going over all the marketing and everything else. And everybody's here probably till 6, 7 at night. And then if there's a show, people go out to the show. And we have bands and stuff come in. So I'm not here in the office a whole lot because I travel all the time. I'm in New York a lot or seeing the bands and stuff. So I'm probably only in the office maybe 3 or 4 days a week probably, and then traveling the rest. And we've got a great group of people here because they love the music. Well, we started in 1982, a compilation album called Metal Massacre. And the first 3 years were just me, all by myself in my mom's garage, doing it. And then we eventually got an office and a couple of employees. It's kind of grown, obviously, over the past 30 years. Today, we've got about 52 signed artists around the world because we have a company in Europe and everything else. Well, when I was 11 years old, the first time I ever heard a heavy metal song was my cousin played me Deep Purple's Machine Head album. And I'd never heard anything like that before. I was freaking out, like, what is this? So I bought it the next day, and from then on I was just hooked on metal, and ever since then I've just been a big fan. Well, there's been so many bands that I've been lucky enough to have found lurking somewhere out there and been able to put out. Obviously, Metallica and Slayer come to mind as the two biggest of the bands that started on Metal Blade that I was lucky enough to find. So, and then so many more over the years between Cannibal Corpse and DRI, on and on and on, up to today where you have bands like As I Lay Dying and Unearth and the Black Dahlia Murder. So there's been so many. It's been amazing to be a part of it, for sure. In 1981, the end of 1981, Michael Schenker Group had played venue called the Country Club. I went with my friend John Cornarins. After the show, he saw a kid in the parking lot wearing a Saxon European t-shirt. Now in 1981 in LA, the only two people that knew who Saxon was were me and my friend John Cornarins. So he ran up to the kid and goes, "Where did you get that t-shirt?" He goes, "Oh, I just moved here from Denmark. I'm a huge fan of this band." And so they started talking. John goes, "You got to meet my friend Brian because we're all in the same music together." So the next day, Lars came to my house. We just started hung out and listened to music. And he had bands that I didn't know about, and we had bands that he didn't know about. So we just became friends, and we would drive to record stores, which back then it was really hard to find any of the new wave of British heavy metal stuff then. So we'd drive like an hour and a half to a store. I never forget that we would I'd park the car, and he'd be out of the back seat into the store looking at the metal section before I could even open my door. It's crazy, because we had to kind of, not that we had to fight over it, but there's only one copy of something in there, and he had to be the first one to get it. So it was fun, and we've been really good friends ever since, which is pretty amazing. So in the early days, it was pretty easy to find and sign bands. For example, Metallica, I was just friends with Lars Ulrich before there ever was a Metallica band. Me being friends with Lars, obviously, he knew that I was putting together this Metal Massacre compilation, so he called me up and said, "Hey, if I put together a band, can I be on the album?" I said, "Sure." It was just him and James. He called James because they had been jamming for a while, but they never really did anything because there was nothing that they could do, just two guys jamming. He talked to James about it. James thought awesome. They recorded a track, hit the lights, and I guess the rest is history. Slayer, they opened for a band that we had signed called Bitch back in 1983 at someplace in Anaheim, California. And I went to see the show, and Slayer opened, and I saw them play before Bitch, and they were amazing. They did mostly covers, but they had a couple of originals, and they did the best cover of Phantom of the Opera by Iron Maiden I've ever seen. So I went backstage and talked to some 18-year-old kid that was managing them and said, "Hey, I do these compilation albums. I'd love to have the band on." And as I heard them and saw them more, and they actually had a lot of interesting, really good original material, I said, "Well, hey, if we can somehow get some money together, we can make a record." And so I think Tom's dad and Carrie's dad was able to get a little bit of money together, so we were able to make a record. This was back in the days when nobody had any money. Well, Slayer was a lot of fun to work with because they were musically, for me, I ended up producing a lot of records in the early days, not because I was a producer, just because nobody else was doing it. So kind of a one-man label, I might as well do that too. So being in the studio with those guys was amazing because they were such incredible musicians, and they really knew exactly what they wanted to do. I was just blown away, especially like Dave Lombardo, for example. The first Show No Mercy, which was the first Slayer record, he recorded the drums in 6 hours. The entire album in 6 hours, and if you listen to it today, it's such an iconic, amazing record. His drums are phenomenal. Cannibal Corpse was another interesting one where we got a cassette tape in with this band called Cannibal Corpse on it. And before I even played it, I looked at it and I saw on there called Skull Full of Maggots. I thought that is a great song title. This has to be good because I want to sign this band so bad just because of the song, just because of that song title. So, and actually the tape was pretty good. So. As Lay Dying is a band that one of our guys saw playing in San Diego, California, a little showcase, and he had come back and said, we really should check these guys out. We heard them, saw them play a show, and just instantly, wow, this band is amazing. The Black Dahlia Murder. I found them, I was surfing the internet. I saw the name, the Black Dahlia Murder. I said, wow, it's a really cool name. So I clicked on the link, went to their site. They had a song or two up that I could listen to the song and said, wow, this is really cool. And I had no information on how to get a hold of it other than the little link there. So I just sent them a link and said, hey, by the way, this is Brian Slagel from Metal Boy. I'd love to talk to you guys about signing you. And they emailed me back and said, is this really Brian Slagel? I said, I swear, here's my phone number, call me. So they called me and we ended up signing. There was and there still is actually, a convention in New York called CMJ. I think it was 1988. Anyway, I gone there, and these people kept coming up to me, you've got to see this band GWAR. They go in the audience, they throw blood at people, they throw meat at people. You would love this. Like, wow, it sounds really interesting. So I went and saw the show, and my first thought was, they're at least halfway normal people, I have to work with them. And luckily, when I went and met them, they were actually pretty normal, smart guys. And we started working with them ever since. They're still going strong and doing great. Now they're probably bigger than they've ever been. The real lucky thing for me about doing this as a business, and probably one of the reasons why that I'm still doing this 30 years later, is I love working with these bands and being friends with them. And GWAR is a great example of not only do we work with them, but they're also really good friends of mine. I love hanging out with them. Dave, the singer Odorous, is a phenomenal guy that is a blast to hang with, and all the guys in the band are really good guys. So it's fun to go, just hang out with them. Like Cradle of Filth, one of those iconic, massive black metal bands that, again, had been around for a little while, and we were lucky to work with them on a couple of their key releases. So, I've just been a fan since day one of theirs, and a lot of times that happens too, where I'm a big fan of a band, and then something will come along, we're actually able to work with them, and we're really lucky to do a couple things with Cradle of Filth. Great band. GWAR has been one of my all-time favorite bands forever. Loved their first record, loved everything they've ever done. And again, it's one of those things where, I was able to meet with the band, and they were available to do some work. So when we put out the record, Warriors of the World, I said, you guys have to do a U.S. tour. So I was happy that they were able to do a tour. So that was like, for me, like, yes, GWAR played in the U.S. It's weird. People ask me all the time, like, what do you look for when you listen to a band? And honestly, I don't look for anything. I just put it in and listen to it, and if it's something I like, I want to work with it. If it's something that I don't like, I don't want to work with it. There's really no barometer, or there's nothing that I say, oh, it has to have this and this and this. It's really just what I like. And luckily, over the years, stuff that I've liked, other people have liked as well. So there's always artists that you want to sign that you can't. I mean, you can go all the way back to Metallica. If I had $10,000 in 1982 or 83, I could have put out the first Metallica record, but I had the money. So it is what it is. So, I mean, that was a bummer. And the only one I really kind of did screw up on and missed out on was Guns N' Roses. They used to play in LA all the time, and people would say, oh, you got to go see this band. They're really good. I don't know. Kind of look like a glam band. I'm not really that into it. And then I heard Appetite for Destruction and just fell off my chair. Like, this thing is amazing. How did I miss out on that? Yeah, there's a lot of really cool new bands that we've signed that we're really happy to be working with. One of them is Gypsy Hawk, really great new band from Pasadena, California. Very old school, Thin Lizzy-esque stuff, and we've got a phenomenal reaction from them so far, so it's really cool and exciting. It's a band called In Solitude from Sweden that we love, that's very early 80s, Iron Maiden-ish, I guess, so to speak. It's really, really cool. So there's a lot of stuff coming up that we're really excited about. And I kind of like the fact that these younger bands are kind of going back and revisiting the early 80s style. Let's see, I think metal right now is probably bigger than it's ever been. And I think certainly the bigger bands out there continue to be big and huge, like Maiden and Metallica, are not going to get any smaller. I guess the biggest thing we'll all look for in the future of metal is how are these kind of young bands going to get, is anybody ever going to get to that level again? Slayer, Metallica, whatever. So we'll see. In 1982, when this first started, nobody would ever believe that bands like Slayer and Metallica would be as big as they are. So I won't close the door on somebody coming up and being really big. But I feel excited about the future. There's a lot of great new bands coming out. There's a lot of really cool new styles of music. It seems like it's going to continue to go strong. It's everywhere, so you can't stop it.